on. I'm smart this time. I ain't gonna record an hour and then get off mic. Wait, let me make sure you're going to. Alright. Yeah, alright. So, alright. This is what if Deku had a panther quirk, alright? So basically, I saw everybody was doing a cat what if in some sort of way or fashion, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna hop on this trend. Fuck it. Because, why not? Also, I had a few ideas that just popped into my head, and I was conflicted on just giving him giving him Panther abilities, or just making him like Black Panther of Wakanda. But I decided to just give him Panther-like abilities for certain reasons that you will understand soon. Alright, so the way Deku's quirk is gonna work, Deku's quirk is gonna be mutation/transformation type, alright? He's also going to have some emitter abilities. So it's going to be a pretty damn overpowered quirk. Basically, Deku's base, he looks like, a normal person. But he has cat ears and, a long tail. We'll say that the tail is around... It could probably, it's about a Saiyan's height for a tail. So basically, it could wrap around his waist entirely. And, also, he's able to transform into a panther. For now, he's a little kid, so I don't really know how big he'll be. But when he's at, his oldest, when he's at, 19, he'll be at, All Might's shoulders when he stands on all fours. So imagine how fucking big that thing is. And, also, since he's going to be a Black Panther, he has shadow manipulation, but not to, a crazy extent. He can basically, he can go into shadows, he can bind people with shadows. Basically, imagine Black Whip, but, not nearly as strong and weakened in the light. Basically, that's how I imagined his quirk with my friend Usual. Alright? Usual is such a fucking amazing person because he helps me with, all my what-ifs, not gonna lie. So, the way that this is gonna start off, Deku's born, right? He has cat ears and a cat tail. Inko's not too surprised, nor is Sasashi, because we'll say that Inko's grandma had a cat quirk, but her dad had what's it called? A telekinesis quirk like Inko. And Hisashi still will have fire breathing. Inko will still have telekinesis. Because I'm making that because Deku will have a sibling in this, but she is going to be much younger. And don't worry, she's not going to be an awful person. Basically, Inko, she's like, oh, he has a mutation. They're thinking, that won't be useful for becoming a hero because they want money, they want to be, lazy, they don't want to have to take care of Deku. They want to, soon when Deku becomes old enough, just live easy lives, right? So after that, Deku, they take care of Deku until he's about 4 years old. Deku, he's a very quiet kid. He doesn't talk to too many people. He keeps to himself mostly. He's kind of mischievous at times, but nothing really crazy. Nothing is crazy enough to, abandon your kid. But this isn't what if Deku is abandoned, so don't worry. He will be abandoned, but, yeah. Spoilers, I guess. But he goes to the quirk doctor. The quirk doctor, being dumb, is just like, yeah, we think that it's just a mutation, and he just has these... And he's like, I think he just has ears and a tail. I think that's it. Even though Deku has enhanced strength and stuff like that, which they didn't really test because they just were like, yeah, just look at him. Basically, Inko and Hisashi hear this and they're like, oh, perfect, useless. So, basically, he has to hit the road. So they're driving with Deku, right? And Deku's like, so where are we going, Yada, yada, yada. Inko is like, just shut up. Oh my god. Deku shuts up. And then, basically, Hisashi's like, how did we get dealt with such an awful card? Maybe the next one will be better. Inko's like, yeah, hopefully. Basically, Deku's thrown out of the car. He's left at this forest, right? I guess, it's nighttime, because they're that fucked up. Yeah, I know. But Deku can see in the dark, because he's a panther. So, basically, he's walking around, right? He doesn't really know about the transformation yet. So basically, Deku, he's walking around and he sees a few, we'll say, I don't want it to be anything crazy. We'll say he sees, I don't want to say a bear, because, Deku's not going to be as big as a bear. We'll say he runs into a lone wolf, right? and Deku's scared because it's a wolf. The wolf is just like sniffing at Deku, and then after that, like the wolf attacks. Deku, by instinct, transforms into a panther, and his panther instincts take over, and he kills the wolf. Basically he's looking around. He realizes that he's a panther, and he's like, maybe it's safer like this. So we'll say that he's a bit bigger than an average wolf at this point. So Deku's growing up in the forest, and we'll say for plot reasons, this is close to the forest where the wild pussycats stay, right? So we'll say that one day, alright, we'll time skip for a little while. Mirio and Nejire and all of them, they're in class 1A at this point. I think Mirio was in 1B actually. So Mirio, he's there, right? And they're in their summer training camp. And basically, like, Deku's gotten much bigger at this point. I'm pretty sure he'd be, like, 15 at this point, because UA's a college. So, yeah, he'd be 15 at this point. So, basically, when Deku, Mirio, he's walking out, right? And he sees, like, this little cat. And he's like, hey, guys, do we have anything for cats? And then, basically, we'll say Pixie Bob. She's like, oh, yeah, we got catnip, right? So, Mirio, he's like, oh, shit, okay. So, he goes, grabs some catnip, opens it up, right? When he opens it up, though, Deku's like, the fuck is that? Like, he's scratching his neck, like, what the fuck is that? If you get what I'm doing, he's like, he's like at his full panther mode, because he doesn't really feel like, he hasn't, at this point, he's practically forgotten that he's human. But, like, Deku just smells this, and he's like, the fuck is that? At this point, Mirio's putting down some catnip into the bowl. The cat's immediately rushing over. Deku, since he's a panther, and he's also, like, very much, like, better than most panthers, he's rushing over there, right? So, Deku gets there within the matter of 10 minutes, right? And basically Mirio didn't put too much catnip at first, just to make sure that the cat would come over, because he didn't want to just put it all in a bowl and the cat just walks away. So then he starts putting in some more, and then, like, the cat can feel, like, the danger. So he dips. Mirio's like, oh, and I just put more in. And then, like, Deku runs up. He basically grabs the bag from Mirio, and just starts eating the bag. But, like, he spits out the plastic part. He's eating, like, the catnip that's on the ground because he ripped it open. Mirio's like, what the actual fuck? Because, like, it's a giant fucking panther. Like, he's about, like, at this point, he's probably half or 2/3 of All Might's size. So it's a big ass panther. Like, he's bigger than, like, a grizzly bear. So Mirio's slowly backing up, and we'll say that this was a pretty big bag. So, basically Deku looks at Mirio, like Mirio, like, he doesn't say anything to Mirio, but Mirio can tell what he's saying. He's like, where the fuck is there any more, and where the fuck is it, if there is? Mirio, he just points towards, like, he, for some reason, he just feels like, if I point in this direction, he'll know that more catnip is over there. Basically, Deku looks in that direction, he runs towards it, right? And he finds the holy grail of catnip, right? And then Mirio immediately just runs over to, like, Pixie Bob. He's like, yeah, a giant fucking panther the size of, like, 2/3 of All Might just ran up on me and stole the catnip. Mandalay's like, stop bullshitting me. You just fed the cat all the catnip. He's like, check in there. Try me. Check in there. And, basically, like, the fear in Mirio's eyes, because Mirio's still pretty strong. Well, no, Mirio wasn't really strong until, like, he actually hit the 3rd year. So basically, like, Mandalay's like, alright, I'll go check. She sees, like, this big-ass fucking panther just rummaging through the fucking catnip. Like, he doesn't care about anything else. He's just eating the catnip, right? And I think it was a Pixie Bob, right? I said Pixie Bob or Mandalay. I'll say it was Mandalay. And Mandalay's like, what the fuck? She's like, oh, fuck no. She basically immediately, like, calls Tiger, like, Tiger, we got an issue. There's a giant-ass panther in there. And Tiger's like, yeah, sure, I got it. He thinks it's just some, like, cat that looks pretty big to her, or maybe just, like, a bear or something, and because he can handle a bear. Basically, he sees a big-ass panther, and he's like, oh, shit. So, he basically, like, Deku's eating, and his tail is, like, wagging, like, fast, right? So Tiger, like, he runs over, and, like, he basically, like, tries to, like, pull Deku out, but Deku just smacks him away with his tail, and Deku growls at him. And immediately the wild pussycats, they get on guard. And Deku's just, Deku looks around. He realizes, yeah, this is not it. So he just grabs one bag of catnip and dips. And they're like, the fuck was that? At this point, their teacher and the Wild Pussycats reported that there was a sighting of a giant ass fucking panther, and they compared it to the building size, and lo and behold, it is 2/3 the size of All Might. So wait, let me make sure I'm still recording, because I'm for sure not forgetting. How long have I been recording? 10 minutes. All right. Basically, they're lo and behold, it is the size of 2/3 of All Might. And, they're like, holy shit. Basically, this shit's spreading around the news, because it's basically the Loch Ness Monster. But, actual, pro heroes say that they saw it, so it has to be real. And a few people are like, nah, it's just a quirked animal, and yada, 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 stuff like that. And, there are a few people who are thrill seekers, so there'll be a few people heading towards Deku's way. But, no one of importance yet, at least. So we're gonna time skip. Deku's about 16 now. Right, and then this guy, his name is Sho, alright? He basically runs, he's he's a thrill seeker, right? So the way it works is, he just, is seeking thrill in life because he's just bored. He's usually bored. If you guys get who this is based off of already, then good. If not, then you guys need to catch up. By the way, Deku's sister was born by now. Her name is Neko, yes. Deku's sister is Neko, and the reason why they kept Neko around is because she had an actual flame manipulation quirk along with her cat ears and stuff like that. So they kept Neko around. Neko's around the same age as Eri. That'll be important for later. But after that, Deku, he's he's chilling out. He's in the forest. He's walking around as a panther, because at this point he's honestly forgotten that he's human. And after that, we'll say that Sho is walking around, right? And then he looks, and he sees, Deku's looking straight at him, and he's looking at Deku. Their eyes are locked. And, Deku's, so, basically, if Sho makes the wrong move, he's fucked. And if Deku makes the wrong move, then Sho's fucked. That's how Deku sees it. Sho's shit. I actually ran into it. He didn't actually expect to run into it. So, basically, Sho, he tries to back up, and he steps on a branch, which sets Deku off. So Deku rushes him. Then, Sho just shoots, because Sho's quirk, it basically works as smoke. So, the way it works, he's able to, shoot out smoke. But, this smoke is anything. So, it can be toxic smoke, it can be, weed smoke, it can be anything, right? So, basically, he shoots, knockout gas and, also weed. So, Deku's just, at this point, he's discombobulated, right? And then he just gets knocked out. But since Deku got knocked out by, outside means, it sends Deku back into his normal form. And, Sho is surprised because, the big fucking legendary panther is just a brat. So he's like, shit. Well, maybe I should chill out. So he sits down with Deku. He sits down. He waits for Deku to wake up. Deku gets up. He realizes that he's not really in his panther form. And, since Deku has been in his panther form since he was, 4, he doesn't really know how to transform on and off. So he's stuck like this until he feels like he's in danger. So he's like, shit. He's thinking, crap. Because he's the intelligence level of, a 4-year-old. And, he's like, what do you want from me, basically? Because I'm still going to make Deku pretty smart. So he's like, what do you want from me? And Sho's like, oh, chill out there, kid. I didn't know the legendary gigantic, monster panther, or the Giganta panther, or some shit like that, was, a brat. And Deku's like, I'm not a brat. And he's like, what, he's like, who the hell are you anyway, and why are you in my forest? Sho's like, oh, your forest. Basically, they're talking for a bit, and, he's like, tell me your story, kid. Why are you out here? Deku explains because, he's stuck like this. So if Sho attacks, by saying this, he buys himself more time. He explains that his parents abandoned him because he doesn't really know why. They just abandoned him, and then he basically his quirk evolved or something, and he became a panther. Sho's surprised. He's like, kid, do you even know anything about your quirk? Have you ever even trained it? And, Deku basically explains that, honestly, he had almost forgotten that he was human at this point, which Sho is surprised about. So, Deku, he stays with Deku. He trains Deku on, his quirk and stuff like that. Deku discovers that he also has shadow manipulation, but not to that strong of a degree. He's like, yeah, you should probably work on your shadow manipulation. And Deku's like, so, like, are you not gonna try to attack me or turn me into whatever authorities you guys have? And then after that, basically shows like, nah, honestly, it's not my place to do any of that. I'll probably visit you sometime soon, but other than that, I won't really need to do anything. He's like, alright. And basically Sho did leave a few words with Deku. He was like, yeah, honestly, if you run into other people, just turn humanoid so you don't have to fight them, and they'll leave you alone, really. They might talk to you for a little bit. That's the worst thing they can really do. So Deku understood. Sho gave him clothes because he didn't want Deku running around naked. And we'll say for plot reasoning, Deku's clothes stay on him even if he transforms, because I don't feel like making him get special clothes and stuff like that. Alright, it's just a waste of time. So basically, Deku, now like, Sho's left, right? So Deku, he's basically, walking around. He feels more comfortable as a panther, so he does it as a panther, right? And he sees this little kid, like, nearby where the wild pussycats are, because he still lives near them, right? So he sees this little kid, right? And he's like, huh, the hell's up with him? And he sees the little kid's crying, so basically, he's like, huh, that's not good. But, like, the little kid gets up, he's about to walk off, then, like, he walks, and, like, a rock from, like, his left side falls, and he's about to fall off of the hill. Deku immediately rushes in there and grabs Koda, because it's Koda, like, if you didn't know. He grabs Koda, and then, like, Koda's surprised, because, like, the big-ass panther, like, has him in his fucking mouth. Basically his shirt, but not really him. So he's shaking. Deku realizes that Koda's scared, so he transforms back, right? He's like, hey, kid, what's up with you? Koda's like, what? You're the big panther that my auntie warned me about. He's like, your auntie? Who's she? He explains that she's Mandalade. Deku's like, okay, that doesn't explain who she is. He explained what she looked like. He's like, oh, I ran into her once. Because he did get, like, a good look at the wild pussycats, so he knows what they look like. They don't really know who he is, because they won't really know at all. So he's sitting down with Koda. He's like, so why were you crying, kid? Because, like, he's mostly adopted, Sho's personality, since he was around him for, like, a solid, we'll say, 4 months, and that was his only human interaction since, like, since he was 4. So basically, Deku, he's like, what were you crying about? Yuta, or not Yuta, fuck, why did I say Yuta? Koda explains, his parents were killed by this villain, yada yada yada. And this is like, we'll say that this is a little bit before Koda really thinks that, it's the hero's fault for why his parents are dead. He still blames, at this point he blames Muscular, but he's slowly starting to, like, think, why, it's the hero's fault. If heroes weren't a thing, then my parents would be alive, yada yada yada. That's not what he's thinking right now, though. Right now he's thinking that, if villains weren't a thing, yada yada yada. Because we'll say that was his mindset. First it was to heroes, then at one point it became like, he was so enveloped with hatred that he blamed even the heroes. So he explains that villains, killed his parents, yada yada. Deku's like, what's it called? My parents abandoned me. Koda's like, that's not good. Why would your parents abandon you? Deku's like, I don't know. You have as much of a guess as I do. And then, so basically he talks with Koda, and Koda does explain, like, everything, like, about, like, quirks and stuff like that with Deku, because Deku didn't really understand them. So he's like, can I talk to you more often, because Koda has to leave. So he's like, are you going to be leaving all the time, or will you be coming here more often? Koda's like, I'll probably be coming here more often, so if you want to talk, Mr. Panther, then we can. Deku knows his name is Deku, or Izuku, but he doesn't really have a reason to tell him that yet. So he's like, yeah, sure. So, basically after that, Deku and Koda, they talk a lot. Basically, Koda explains that, heroes are people who protect the innocent and stuff like that. Heroes' jobs are to protect others. Deku's also there like, hey, when Koda thinks, like, maybe it could have been his parents' fault, Like, he's like, well, I mean, it's not really their fault because they were protecting the weaker ones, and since they did that, more people survived. And then Koda's like, yeah, but, you know, they left me, yada, yada, yada. No, Deku sits down with Koda. He's like, listen, alright? Yeah, they might have... I know they didn't want to leave you, alright? Everyone, you know, no parent wants to leave their kids unless, you know, you're my parents, I guess. But, you know, it's like, your parents probably didn't want to leave you. From how it sounds like they absolutely love you. So they're probably, you know, he doesn't really know how to describe it since he's, you know, he's still not very smart, but, you know, he's not dumb either. So he's like, your parents probably, like, no matter what, cared about you, but they just knew that, you know, they had to set an example for you. Koda kind of understands it because he's still, like, pretty young. So he kind of understands it, you know. He tells Deku thank you, yada, yada, yada. And then one day Mandalay is like, hey, Koda, where have you been going? Like, usually you leave your spot, you know, at this time, but you've been leaving it, you know, a lot later. You know, Koda, being a kid, he's like, oh, I talked to the Big Panther, you know. I always talk to Mr. Big Panther. You know, Mandalay's like, excuse me, Mr. Big Panther? And then he's like, yeah, you know the Big Panther that you told me about? And then Mandalay, she's immediately on, like, you talked to that? Like, you know, like, how long have you been talking to the Panther? He's like, a month. The Panther, he's very nice to me. You know, he helped me with dealing with everything. Mandalay's like, so, Koda, how would you like to stay in the house and play games for a month? He's like, but what about Mr. Panther? She's like, don't worry about it. And then, after that, Koda, he tells Deku that, he's like, alright, well, I'm gonna go one more time then to tell him that I'm gonna be gone for a while. And, you know, basically Deku did tell, you know, basically Koda told Deku that he's not gonna be there for a while because, you know, his mom wants him to stay inside. Deku did explain that, you know, he'll probably be going to try to become one of those heroes that you talked about. So Koda's happy that Deku wants to become a hero because of him. You know, Deku's happy that Koda's happy because, you know, Deku's that kind of person. And he's like, well, when I see you again, you know, it'll probably be later on, but I'll definitely become a hero. You know, Koda's like, all right, you know, I'll become a hero one day too. Better than All Might. And Deku's like, he's like, I feel like I've heard of that name from somewhere, but I can't put my finger on it. Because, you know, he was an All Might fan still. But he just, you know, at this point, he doesn't really remember All Might that well. So he's like, alright, well, I'm going to go contact an old friend of mine. So basically, he heads over. And he basically, Sho did tell him, like, hey, you know, if you need me, I'm coming back, actually, to camp again at this certain time. I didn't say it before because I didn't really feel like it. But basically, Sho tells him, like, hey, what's up? Deku tells him how he wants to become a hero. Sho's like, oh, okay, that's weird, I guess, but sure. He's like, well, I need you to enroll me to school. He's like, what, do you want me to be like your dad or something? He's like, you don't have to be my dad, more like my brother. And Sho's like, sure, kid. Why not, you know? Basically, he pats Deku on the head, because, you know, Deku has the ears and, you know, the tail, which, you know. And so after that, Deku, he's walking with the, what was I gonna say? He heads out of the forest with the Sho. He's looking around. He's surprised by everything he sees because, you know, the city, yeah, it's been, like, you know, a lot of years, and the city has, like, developed a lot. So it looks completely different to him. Plus, it's been forever, so he doesn't really remember it. So he's like, what the hell, you know? He sees a car, and he thinks that, like, it's an animal. He's like, what the hell? Like, is that food? Is that a predator? You know? Sho's like, have you ever heard of a car? He's like, I remember something about a car. What is it? Does it eat meat? You know? He's like, no, it eats gas. Like, gas? What do you mean gas? You know, Sho's like, okay. So basically, we'll say Sho was, you know, we'll say that since Sho has a pretty strong quirk, he was owed a few favors by a few people. And Nezu was one of them. So basically, he explained to Nezu that this kid was like, he didn't explain that he was the fucking panther that was in the forest, because he doesn't have a reason to tell Nezu all that. But what's it called? He explains to Nezu that, yeah, this kid was like left in the forest for a long time, and, you know, he kind of needs to catch up with his grade level. Which he's like, how old are you, boy? And, basically Deku holds up his hands. He's like, so he puts up 10 fingers, right? And then he puts up 7. And then he's like, this many, And Sho is like, you're an idiot. But, after that, Deku basically takes the name Izuku Sho, which, that's going to be his name now, Izuku Sho in this one. So Deku's like, alright, well, so what do you want me to do? So basically, Deku, he now studies, like, hard. He lives with Sho, for the most part. He studies hard, and the Sho is like, yeah, I'm not gonna really be staying around this area too much, so can you, like, make dorms for him? So, they do make the dorms earlier, and Deku is, like, the first person to really stay there, because he's basically their testing phase for it, because they realize that dorms would be smart either way, since they're hero school. So Deku stays at the dorms, He, just for the fuck's sake of it, Deku does have one of those, like, cat castle things that, but they're more human-sized, so he does have one of those in his room. Because, if I haven't described it, Deku basically, like, he doesn't have paws or anything like that, but, his hands, they're furry, and he has claws. So Deku does, like, he is, like, basically like a cat, but he's more like a panther to where he likes to keep to himself. He's very, he's very quiet and stuff like that at times. He's not too outgoing, but, he can be nice, but he can also be very scary if you piss him off. Basically, he's like that. So after that, Deku, it's been about a year, and Koda knew that Deku went out to go become a hero, so he's like, alright, he should be going to UA now. Because he did tell Deku about how UA was the best school to go to, so Deku realized, I gotta go to UA. So after that, he did explain his quirk to Nezu. Nezu got his quirk registered, Nezu was like, do you want us to find your parents? Deku was like, no, I really don't have any reason to want to find them. So, Nezu was like, alright, for now we won't really look for them, but soon we will, if, once the time comes and we'll need to. Goddamn. That's better. So after that, Deku, he's with, what's his name? He's with, Sho. And Sho has to leave, and he's like, alright, well, I'm gonna be heading out now. I'm going to America. I have a few jobs to do there. Deku's like, alright, bye, Sho. Sho's like, later, Izuku. He leaves, because Deku doesn't have the name, like, is Deku. I just call him Deku for easier, like, terms. Mostly his name is, like, Izuku. Or like, some people will just say Young Sho. Like, All Might would call him Young Sho, which sounds weird. But, yeah, so, I gotta get comfortable. Sorry, I do all my what-ifs in my bed. I don't think I've really done any without being in my bed, other than maybe pain, I think. Alright, let me get back on topic. So Deku, it's now the entrance exam. Deku does have to take the entrance exam, even if Sho was owed a favor by Nezu. Nezu said, either he can study from me and take recommendations, or not take recommendations, or he can take recommendations and just be like at not even first grade level. So, of course, being smart, he knew Deku was strong, so Deku does take the entrance exams. Let's see how long this is right now. Okay, I can go on for a little while. Alright, I'm gonna try to make this an hour. So Deku does go to the entrance exams. He doesn't trip because he's not stupid. He is quiet. He doesn't sit next to Bakugo. All Might is explaining, what the, No, we'll say that he sits next to Bakugo, but Bakugo doesn't know him. He doesn't know Bakugo. And, what's it called? Well, President Mike is explaining. And since Deku's nervous, his tail is waving around, and Ida's right behind him. So Ida gets up, he's like, if you ain't forgot the, basically he scared the shit out of Deku, so Deku's tail, like got to attention, like, what the fuck, because if you've ever scared a cat, like, they basically shoot up. So he's like, if you have forgotten about the 0-pointer, I will be very disappointed in you, eh? And he's like, by the way, you, get your tail under control, yada, yada, yada. Deku looks at him. He's like, bitch, it's a tail. Do you have a tail? Ida's like, no, I do not have a tail. My quirk doesn't involve a tail. Deku's like, then you don't know how hard it is to, like, get it under control. Alright? My tail does whatever the hell my tail wants. And it smacks Deku, not Deku, Ida. It's like, yeah, my tail did that. I didn't even want it to. Even though he totally just made his tail just hit Ida. He's like, yeah. So now you look like an idiot. And he gets up and he's like, alright, you can explain the robot to him. It's just a 0-pointer for fuck's sake. An obstacle. Anyone with a sense of fucking brain power could tell that. And then he walks off because, Ida pissed him off. Prison Mike's like, well, yes, it is an obstacle and it is a 0-pointer. Said, Catboy is right. He's like, the fuck did you call me? Because he has run to Prison Mike, so they're cool. He's like, the hell did you call me, Mike? Michael's like, I'm kidding, Izuku. Gosh, jeez. Everybody's confused because Deku did, like, learn under Nezu until he was, like, 18, 19. Like, his entire year of being 18. Because we'll say that UA starts when you're 19 in this one, because I just fucked up time if not. But if you're mad about that, just move everything that I said that happened back 1 year. So, yeah. So now Deku, he's getting right. He's stretching, right? He doesn't have to worry about getting new outfits or anything like that. Because I didn't feel like it, alright? So, after that, he's like, no, there's no timer in a real fight. Go. Deku immediately turns into a panther and just starts running. It's not a big panther, because he can decide how big it is. So, he becomes, like, an average-sized panther. And he immediately just starts, fucking up robots. Like, he rushed in there, so he was, like, about the same speed, if not maybe a little bit slower than Ida. So, he's rushing in there. He's, like, scratching up a few, like, robots, He's messing them. He bites off a few of their heads and stuff like that, like the 1-pointers, and he'll scratch off a 2-pointer's head, and then he'll crush like one with with a shadow. Basically that stuff, right? And then, so Deku's doing pretty well. He has a good amount of points, and then the 0-pointer comes, and Deku's like, yeah, obstacle, and he's about to turn into a panther and dip. Basically. But before he can, he hears a girl yell out, and Deku looks back. Before you say anything, she's not the ship. No one, I've already basically introduced the ship. If you're smart, you'll get it. If not, then you won't, I guess. And so the way it works, Deku just rushes in there, right? And he immediately, like, goes full big panther mode, and, like, grabs Uraraka and throws her out of the way, right? And then he goes into, like, a half humanoid, half panther mode, because he's been training with his quirk. So he's holding up no, because it wasn't really a foot gonna crush her. It was more like it was gonna roll over her. So basically he stopped it, right? And then he starts pushing it back, right? And then he pulls a full-on Kratos and just flips that bitch, because he's strong as a motherfucker. So he just flips that thing, 0-pointer falls on his back. Deku jumps on the 0-pointer and just starts beating into its face, right? And now the 0-pointer's down. Deku did get the points, He grabs Uraraka, takes her to recovery girl. Uraraka's like, thank you, who are you? He's like, the name's Izuku. And, he walks off, because it's time to finish up, and he heads toward the dorms. Nezu's like, well, I'm guessing you know that you already passed, because Nezu made him smart as a motherfucker, because Izuku caught on to shit fast. Because he's smart. He's a panther. Panthers are pretty smart. So he just caught on to shit fast. So Nezu taught him, and Deku was learning at an astonishing rate. Like, he finished algebra in a day. Like, crazy shit like that. Well, not really finished, but finished the basics of algebra in a day, and then perfected it within a week. Like, that's how good he was. So imagine how good he was at simple addition. Actually, simple addition was his hard part, because he had to get into math at the beginning, and then after he got into it, he understood it. The only thing that he ever had a problem with was, like, reading, because he didn't understand, like, deep philosophical literature. He was like, that's stupid. I don't get it. How is this going to help me in the future? Nezu's like, it will help you in the future. Deku's like, alright, tell me how. And, Nezu, with his infinite knowledge, I don't know. How will poetry help me become a superhero? But, So, yeah. Deku did get looks from girls because, he's a cat boy. Basically, he walks over to the dorms. He goes, he immediately just curls up in a ball, goes to sleep. He gets the letter. He, personally, Aizawa brings him the letter. He's like, yeah, welcome to Your Hero Academia, yada, yada. And, he just hands Deku the letter. Deku's like, you didn't even let it be a surprise. He's like, did I really need to? And he walks off. Deku's like, Aizawa, he's so much like me. Because they're both lazy. And they're both, not really caring. So after that, Deku opens up the letter. He gets basically the same talk as Canon, but he isn't as hit nearly as hard. Because, he doesn't give a fuck over who All Might is. So after that, he calls Sho and he's like, hey, I made it, into UA, yada, yada, yada. And, he's like, yeah, you have a free week. Yeah, do whatever you want, I guess, Deku's like, alright, I have an idea. He basically, he heads towards the forest where he's from, He sees Koda sitting up at his rock. Deku, he lands next to him. He's like, hey, Koda. Koda's like, oh, hey, how are you doing? Deku's like, yeah, I'm doing good right now. I made it into UA, yada, yada, yada. They're celebrating. Basically, Mandalay, it's late now, and Mandalay's like, okay, I'll head over to get him. And right now, Deku's playing with Koda as a big tiger. So he's messing with Koda, right? He's licking his face, because Deku cares about Koda a lot. He views Koda as, a little brother. If not his own, kid. Which, pay attention to that part. And Mandalay walks up. She's like, what the fuck? Because she just sees this big-ass, tiger just messing with Koda. And Koda's laughing. He shoots water at Deku, and Deku's like, he jumps back. He hisses a little bit. Koda's like, alright, I'm sorry, they're messing around. And immediately, I forgot, she had the telepath. She was a telepath. So she immediately, notifies Tiger and Pixie Bob and Ragdoll that, the big-ass tiger is here. So Deku looks at her. He notices her, and he looks at her for a second. And then after that, Tiger, Pixie Bob, and Ragdoll, they show up. Ragdoll does the search shit, so she's basically useless. Mandalay controls the ground, so yeah. They're mostly rescue heroes, so they can't really do anything except for Tiger, who can fight off villains. So Tiger rushes in there, and then Deku smacks Tiger away easy with his tail. Tiger's sent back, because Tiger fights like a cat, but the issue is Deku was raised like a cat. Basically Tiger was raised in the darkness, but he was born, but Deku was born in the catness, molded by it. My Bane impression sucks. I need a cup for it to be good. Give me a second. Grab this cup. Hello. Alright, yeah, that should work. Alright. So, Deku was born in the catness, molded by it. That was such a dumb joke. You may have been raised in the catness, Tiger, but I was born in the catness, molded by it. Basically, that's Deku's mindset right now. So immediately, Tiger gets smacked the fuck back. Pixie, Ragdoll tries to do something. I don't know what Ragdoll would do. Then Deku just smacks her away. And he's like, you know what? Fuck this, I'm out. He basically what's this shit that cats do where they rub their face on another, on your face? Basically, he does that to Koda, and then he runs off. And Mandalay's like, why would you, yada 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 with the thingy, yada yada yada. Then Koda yells at her. He's like, you shouldn't have been mean to Mr. He still calls him Mr. Panther, even though he knows his name is Izuku at this point. He's like, you shouldn't have been mean to Mr. Panther. He's really nice, yada yada yada. Yeah, you don't even know anything about him. You'll probably like him if you knew him, yada yada yada. Mandalay confused. He never really explains that Deku is human, because he's a kid, and he thinks that Mandalay kind of understands that he's human, even though Mandalay completely does not. So Deku heads over, he heads back to the he heads back to UA, basically, and then it's time to go to class. What time is it now? Alright, I have enough time to maybe do the heroes versus villains. So after that, Deku basically he heads over to well, where does he head over to? Think. He heads straight over to UA. After that, he gets ready for school because we'll time skip to when school is about to start. He's getting ready for school. He hates the suit. They did give him basically a hole for his tail. So basically he put his tail through there. He got the pants on. He's like, alright, this ain't too bad. No, he heads in there. And immediately he sees Bakugo and Ida arguing. He thinks Ida's too loud, and he thinks Bakugo is too obnoxious. So he just walks past them. Ida wanted to say something to Deku, but Deku just walked past Ida. And he just basically got to his desk, put his arms together and just went to sleep. Ida was annoyed because Deku's falling asleep the first day of class, but he's just being a cat, to be real. And he is purring, which all the girls in class find adorable, which makes Mineta jealous as shit. Mineta's like, how the hell does he get all the girls in the class the first day? Deku, he's like, basically he's purring. His tail is wagging. We'll say, who would be the type to do this? It would either be Invisible Girl or Mina, and I'll say Mina. Mina basically, pets Deku's tail, and he starts purring more. And then Mineta's like, what's his tail feel like? And he grabs it. Deku's tail reacts to this harshly and smacks Mineta away. Mineta's dented into a wall. Basically, Mina's like, oh, you shouldn't have grabbed it like that. Now that a few of the hairs are loose, Basically, she's petting it back into place. And Deku is purring. And he wakes up a bit, and he sees that they're messing with his tail. Basically, he wraps his tail around his waist, and he's like, why are you messing with my tail? They're like, because it's adorable. And they're like, can we touch your ears? Deku's like, okay. Because, he's never really gone through anything like this, so he thinks this is normal. He's like, okay, sure, I guess. They touch his ears. And then, we'll say Toru, the invisible girl, she scratches the back of his ears. And Deku, he does how cats do, where they close, the one eye. Whichever is getting scratched, and they start raising their ear towards it because they want to get scratched more, which I find adorable about cats. So he's basically doing that. They're doing that more. Deku really likes getting scratched behind the ear because, he's like... And then Aizawa gets up, he's like, alright, if you came here to make friends, get the hell out, Basically, he's like, all of you, hurry the hell outside, get out there in 3 minutes. If you don't hurry up, then I'll expel everyone here except for Deku. And they're like, why won't you expel Deku? He's like, cats are my favorite. He walks out. Everybody who was all the girls were like, he likes cats too. Guys were like, that's so not fair, But basically, Deku gets out there. He is changing, and he is buff because, remember, his quirk helps his physical body, so he is buff as shit. Not crazy buff like Tiger, but he's a lean muscle build, it's pretty nice. And Kirishima's like, bro, where'd you get your muscles like that? Deku's like, my quirk, I guess. He walks off because he doesn't really want to have a conversation with Kirishima. Tokiyami's like, kind of like me, because he sees that Deku is covered in darkness. But not really. He just sees that Deku is quiet. So he thinks that maybe they could be friends, which I'll probably make him and Tokiyami friends. So Deku, he's basically chilling out, and he got first place because he got rescue points. So Aizawa was basically like, alright, what was your highest throw in middle school or high school? Since this is a college, Deku's like, I didn't go to high school. No, Aizawa was like, oh yeah, that my bad. He throws Deku the ball. He's like, throw it. Deku basically turns his arm more panther-like. So it's basically, it's covered in fur, and it's basically muscled out. And he throws it, and we'll say that he gets 800 meters, because he can't get infinity. He doesn't have a one for all, but he is stronger than Bakugo. I'll make sure of that. And after that, everybody's excited to use their quirks, and then he's like, alright, if you get last place, you're getting expelled. And Basically, he's like everyone except for Deku. And everybody's like, why are you showing so much favoritism? He's like, one, he's a cat. Two, I already know Deku's potential. I don't even really need him to do this. Because he's been staying at UA for a while. Because Deku's been staying there for like a solid few months. So at this point, he already knows what Deku's abilities are. And he knows like better than anybody else what Deku's abilities are. So after that, Deku goes through the test. He gets first place because his quirk is useful all around a lot more than everybody else's, even if people pass him up. So like Ida did get faster than him, but Deku still got fast enough to where it doesn't really matter. He still did really good on the grip test, if not destroyed the grip, which he's like, do I have to use my actual hand? He's like, I mean, not really. Deku's like, all right, he basically starts transforming into like more of a panther. He goes downward, then he like crushes the actual grip test within his jaw, because his bite grip is strong as a motherfucker. So a few people who have Tokiyami and let's say Suyu, since they both have animal-based quirks, their animal-based quirks are like, yeah, fuck that, run. So Sue backs up a little bit. Tokiyami, he's like, Tokiyami does feel the fear, but he's like, fear is a weakness, yada yada yada, because he's Tokiyami, he's dark. So basically, I'm not really gonna add Yuta or anything like that, because I don't really want to add like Yuta to everything, nor do I want to add like I don't plan on adding every OC ever to like every single time, because at one point that means that class 1A will be non-existent. And I'm gonna have to remember like a million OCs at once, which will be hard as hell. So yeah, Yuta's not in this. Alright. Sorry for sorry for you, new god, but Yuta's not in this one. Yuta might be a second year or something, who knows. So after that, Deku got in first place. They're like, basically he's like, by the way, I was lying. And then, Moneta, he stops pissing his pants. Deku's like, ugh, you smell nasty. Like he doesn't have a reason to like be nice about anything, for one, and two, it's Moneta, so he's like, you smell nasty. Did you piss yourself? Moneta's like, no, I didn't piss myself. You pissed yourself. He's like, I have good bladder. I don't piss myself. I haven't done that since I was like a baby. Moneta's like, shut up, and he runs inside, gets changed. And then he's like, the hole to heaven. And Deku, he was taught certain stuff by, Sho. So Sho was like, if you run into a pervert, join them. Like, he's like, and Deku doesn't really understand what he means by join them. So he's like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm peeking in on the girls. He's like, why? He's like, I want to see their luscious melons. Deku's like, can I get a look? He's like, can I get a look? And I was like, sure. And everybody's surprised. Deku, looks in there. He sees that Jiro's, headphone's about to come in there. He dodges it, right? And then Jiro moves her headphone out of the way. And he looks again. He's like, He's like, I don't really get it. And everybody's surprised because, Deku looked in there, and he had a good look. Because Deku's vision is, A1 sauce, alright? So he's like, I don't really get the point of it. What's so good about, seeing naked people? Because Deku doesn't really get, horny unless it's his season. Because he is a panther. So he doesn't really get, he doesn't really get into, any, romantic mood unless he's in his season of time to be romantic. You know what I mean? Mating season, basically. So he doesn't really get, too romantic or anything like that. He might, be like, hey, I care about you at most. But he won't really get romantic with anyone unless it's his mating season. And I don't know when Panther's mating seasons are, so I'm gonna completely randomize whenever I do it, which you guys will know when I do it, because I have a plan. Literally the whole reason I started this what if, but it doesn't matter. Basically, Deku, he's like, all right, well, let's head off, and then next day, All Might comes in. He's like, all right, we will be doing heroes versus villains. We will be drawing by random lots. And then Deku, he's like, all right, I guess. And, we'll say it's Deku and Tokiyami versus Bakugo and I want to say Sue. Bakugo and Sue, right? Deku and Tokiyami are the villains. Bakugo and Sue are the heroes. Basically, Deku looks at Tokiyami. He's like, I kind of think that it would be better if I went towards them instead of just protecting this area, because if they just touch it on accident, they win. Tokiyami's like, that is a very smart idea. You know, Deku's like, so tell me about your quirk. Basically, and then Tokiyami's like, my quirk is called Dark Shadow. And he's like, I can like basically manipulate my shadow. Deku's like, oh, kind of like my quirk. He's like, what do you mean? He's like, my quirk is Black Panther, and I can basically become Black Panther. I can become a pretty large, full-body panther, a humanoid panther, and I can also slightly, not to a great extent, but control shadows. He's like, huh, our quirks are pretty similar. He's like, yeah, but it seems like your quirk is its own living entity. Mine really isn't. I myself have the animal instincts sometimes, but that's about it. So Tokiyami understands. Deku also, understands Tokiyami. So he's like, alright, well, I'm gonna head down. So, Deku's like, do we have anything, like, I'm able to do? He thinks about this right quick. And he's like, is there a power, like, he's like, is there a power source, like, in this room at all? He's like, the lights are on there, but it would be pretty, if I didn't have any lights in here, I could probably not control my quirk. And Deku's like, do you mind if I turn off all the lights out there? He's like, sure. Do you have, like, night vision or something? He's like, yep, I'm a panther. He's like, alright, just make sure you leave the lights on in here. So Deku turns off all the lights except for the one in the bomb room. And then after that, he walks out. He's like, well, I'll be seeing you. He slowly walks away, and as, like, he walks away, all Tokiyami sees are the yellow eyes, and then the door closes. Which, Tokiyami's like, damn. Revelry in the dark. Revelry in the dark. I'm pretty sure that's what he says, or some shit like that. He's like, that's badass, because, that's the type of shit that he thinks of as badass, which it is pretty badass. So, Bakugo, he's, like, talking to Sue. Sue is like, so what's your quirk? He's like, it don't matter. We'll just get to the bomb, I'll explode them, and, we'll get the victory. Because, he thinks of himself as the best. He has nobody to really tell him he's not the best, even in canon. So he's still the same Bakugo. Probably a little bit weaker since he never really used his quirk on Deku. So after that, Deku basically, he's like walking, like, but very slowly since he's, a panther. He's in his panther form, and, like, we'll say humanoid form. So after that, Deku's just walking around, right? He basically hears movement, so he starts going that direction, right? So after that, he heads over to their direction. He peeks the corner, he sees Sue and Bakugo walking. We'll say that Bakugo's just making small sparks. He's like, huh, they turned off the lights. That means that they don't have sight either. Sue is like, well, one of them's a panther, so he might have sight in the dark. Which Bakugo's like, yeah, whatever. Which, Deku basically crawls up behind them while they're not really paying attention. And, like, Bakugo's talking, right? And, Sue's, like, walking with him, not really saying anything. And then Deku just basically puts his hand over Sue's mouth and pulls her back. like imagine, like, how they do in horror movies. Just that. Bakugo's still walking, right? And then he doesn't hear her footsteps. He looks back. She's gone, right? All he hears is a scream, right? Bakugo rushes over. And then he just sees that, Sue is wrapped up in capture tape and, like, carving on the wall saying, "You're next." Which scares the shit out of Bakugo. Not even gonna cap, because he's like, this is some horror movie type shit. Deku did watch movies while he was, like, having the time to chill. So he's like, hello there. Like, he's like, Bakugo. Because he doesn't think of him as Kachan, because he doesn't remember Kachan. He's like, Bakugo. Because, Kachan was his friend. Bakugo is some random person that he's never met before. Because, remember, he met Bakugo. He knew Bakugo before the quirk thing. If Deku told Bakugo that he was quirkless, and that was when everything went to shit. So Bakugo is still nice to Deku. So Deku doesn't really remember Bakugo. He just remembers a kid that was nice to him. So he's like, Bakugo. He's just like saying this. He's like, I'm taking this idea from Last of Us when he did his Beast Deadpool Nightcrawler. What if he's like scratching his hands against the wall? Like all Bakugo hears is this like awful noise in his ears. Basically he looks down the hallway. All he sees are these yellow slit eyes looking at him, and he's like, he's sweating bullets, which helps his quirk. So he lifts up his gauntlets and he just shoots, right? Deku immediately dodged this. He's not dumb. And Bakugo thinks that he blew Deku away because we'll say that he wasn't really close enough to destroy a portion of the building to make light. So he thinks he just blew Deku away and knocked him out, right? And so he's like, "Ha! I got you, you damn nerd." Then he feels like a hand touch the back of his head, and he's like, "What do you mean?" Bakugo is about to turn around, and his face gets slammed into the fucking ground. Then, basically Bakugo, he's about to shoot an explosion. Deku knocks his hand away because he basically knows Bakugo's quirk now, and he kicks Bakugo in the face. He's like, "Alright." And then, now he's, fighting Bakugo. Bakugo's shooting explosions, but he doesn't know where Deku is. So at this point, Deku's, mollywopping Bakugo. And by the end of the fight, Deku has Bakugo, around, he has Bakugo's neck wrapped around, his tail. He's Frieza or some shit, and he's standing up. He's like, "So do hero team win? So does the villain team win?" And All Might's like, "Yeah, villain team wins," He drops Bakugo. He's like, "Alright." He helps Sue up, because, he didn't hurt her, really. Because, Sho taught him better than hitting women. So he didn't really hurt her, really. So he was just like, "Are you okay?" She's like, "Yeah, I'm fine." Deku's like, "You seem tense." She's like, "Yeah, I'm sorry. It's just, you're a panther and I'm a frog, which I stole that idea from someone else as well. I'm sorry." He's like, "Yeah, but, I'm a fucking panther. Panthers don't really eat frogs." She's like, fair point. And Tokiyami hears this. "Do panthers eat birds, though?" He's like, "I mean, depends how big is a bird." He's like, "Ravens or crows?" He's like, we don't, don't genuinely eat, ravens or crows unless they're, out and about and, already dead or something. Which they have to be, freshly killed. But even then, they probably still won't eat it unless they're hungry. It all runs down to, unless they're hungry, to him, at least. Which, Tokiyami's like, "Alright, that's good." Because, he was low-key worried Deku might try to eat him. What time is it right now? Okay, wait, I have 2 minutes to make this an hour. So Deku walks back, All Might's like, "Alright, who is the MVP of this round? Can anyone guess?" Momo's like, well, it was between Deku and Tokiyami. And Tokiyami's like, "How was I at all the MVP? Deku was the one who took them all down." Momo explains that yes, Deku did. Well, actually, no, she would say that Tokiyami was the MVP. She would explain that, reason why Froppy's not MVP is because she didn't really get to do too much because Deku took her out immediately. But, what's it called? But she said that Deku messed with Bakugo too much, which, could have cost him the entire battle. Deku's like, "No, I had it in the bag," which pisses off Bakugo. And Deku explains that, yeah, but, you told me to be a villain, so I was being a villain. That's how I imagine a villain being, messing with the hero, trying to get in their head, and then when they succeed, taking them out. Which, Momo can't really say anything to because he's right. So All Might's like, "Well, that makes that both Tokiyami and, Deku are the MVP." And Tokiyami's like, "What did I do to get an MVP?" He explains that, Tokiyami, made sure to actually, stay by the bomb and protect it. Which Tokiyami then explains, well, I mean, it would have been smarter if Deku went out. Because having Bakugo and Sue fight against us in the same room as a bomb would be kind of dumb. And I knew, basically Deku told me about his hunting skills, so he would probably be the best fit to sneak them out, sneakily get them. which All Might can't really say shit to. So he's like, well, do you want me to just say he's the MVP? He's like, yeah, that would make more sense. He's like, all right, well then, Izuku Midoriya is the MVP, basically a few people run up to Deku. They're like, whoa, that was awesome, yada, 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 stuff like that, And just all that stuff. And, let's see, we just hit an hour. I'm gonna get to the cafeteria thing. So basically, now he's in lunch, right? And he's sitting with Sue. He's sitting with Sue, Uraka, and Tokiyami. So they're talking, right? And they're like, so why did you want to become a hero? Like, Tokiyami asked Uraka. Uraka explains, I did it for money, like a slut. Right? sorry. Chosen Weeb has gotten in my head a little bit. She's like, I did it for the money, yada, yada, yada. Deku's thinking in his head, like he taps Tokiyami, right? And he's like, I need to make sure that this is okay to say, because I usually don't really say things that are okay. Basically Tokiyami is like, yes, say it. Deku like goes to Tokiyami's ear. He's like, isn't that what you call a prostitute? Like Tokiyami, he covers his mouth. He's like he's like, no, Deku, that's not how that works. Deku's like, wait, then what do you call it? And she explains that, it's for her family to get the money, right? And Tokiyami, he's like, yeah, sorry. Sorry. Oh, I had a cough. And, he's like, I had a cough, yeah. Deku's like, so I was wrong? Like, yes, you were wrong, Deku. He's trying not to laugh so hard, because he thought that was the funniest shit ever, because, that is the funniest shit ever, alright? Because Deku... I've decided that Uraka will be a part of the friend group, but she'll always be getting dicked, basically. Not in the good way that she wants either. Because, she will still want, Deku's cat thing. What would I even say? Because Deku's a cat. So, I don't know. She would just want Deku. But basically, so after that, the alarm goes off. Everybody's panicking. Deku's chilled out, and he's like, the fuck is going on? The third year is like, this means that someone's gotten into the walls. This has never happened within my 3 years here. He's like, okay, then calm the fuck down. He's like, what do you mean there's people getting in? He's like, All Might is literally a teacher here. Like, are you dumb? And, the guy calms down, because, he knows that All Might's name got weight, but he doesn't really know the weight that All Might has. He knows that the name has, a lot of meaning to it, but, like, he's met All Might, and All Might doesn't seem like that much to him. He knows, like, he can tell from, like, his instincts that All Might is dumb strong. Definitely stronger than him at this current moment. But he doesn't really know, like, how strong in comparison. So Deku, like, for all Deku knows, that All Might could still, like, be a little bit stronger than him, but he could still beat All Might with technique, maybe, or just plain old, like, more ability. Because, All Might in the end is just smash, if you really think about it. Heavy punches will only get you so far. Which I don't understand how All Might became. I don't understand why there's a whole hero ranking system. Like, if you really think about it. And, yeah, so, what's it called? And so, let me think here. What was I gonna say? I was gonna say something. So Deku just was, like, going over there. He basically, since he's a cat, he just jumps, like, bounces off the wall, bounces on top of the exit sign. Because he did see that it was a press, and he does yell out, hey, it's just a press, you damn idiots, yada, yada, yada. He basically ridicules them all. He's like, aren't you all supposed to be heroes? Like, because he's blunt. So he's like, aren't you all supposed to be heroes? And all that stuff. He's like, you guys are supposed to be heroes. Honestly, I'm disappointed. He's like, this is supposed to be a hero school. I'm just seeing a bunch of, pushovers. He jumps off of there. Everybody, a few people are like, what the hell did you call us? Yada, yada, yada. He's like, were you not just running like a bunch of cowards a second ago? They shut up real quick. After that, Deku's like, yeah, talk to me when you actually, get some, like, backbone. So, I'm gonna change something up, because I feel like I can't wait too long for this. Do I want to do it now, though? I feel like it'd be rushed. He's like, alright, yeah, alright, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do it like this. So basically, they walk into class, right? And they know. So he's like, alright, he walks in there, right? He's with everybody, and everybody's just like, alright, so what are we doing today? And I was like, well, today, in a few days, we'll be going to this forest training camp. Yes, and you heard me right. The forest training camp. We're gonna be skipping the USJ. Like, I'm basically gonna be merging the USJ with the forest training camp. I know that, you guys are probably wondering, why is he doing this, yada, yada, yada. I thought about some stuff, and I was like, well, it would feel really rushed if I did like that. So, I'm gonna do it like this. Basically, that's how I felt. So, yeah, instead of going to the USJ, it's gonna be forest training arc. Don't worry, the villains are still gonna attack the same way. It's gonna be in a more open area, so don't really worry too much about that part. If that's what you're worried about, there will still be the All Might versus Nomu. All Might is gonna be like, we'll say that. I kind of want to get into it now. Nah, I won't get into it now. Fuck it. He just tells him, yeah, we have the forest training arc. Forest training. And Deku, he's like, what forest? He tells him the forest. He's like, oh, okay. Everybody's like, do you know that forest? He's like, yeah, I've been there a few times. He doesn't tell them that he fucking lived there. But, I've been there a few times. After that, he's like, alright, well, just head home for now, and you guys can chill out, Deku goes to the dorm. He's like, I can't wait to see Koda again, he doesn't really pay attention to the date. Pay attention, alright, listen, pay attention to the fact that I said Deku does not pay attention to the date. Like, he doesn't even really know what month it is right now, alright? Pay attention to that, that'll be important soon. Damn, I think I overused my muscles today. Alright, fuck. I had to lift some heavy shit. But, yeah. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this. I'm recording this in, in fucking October 27th. This is probably not going to come out until, November, unless I really am desperate to upload a video. Which, I'm probably not uploading a video today, even. So, yeah. If you guys have enjoyed this, click that like button. Yeah, gotta put it out there. Click the like button. If you guys enjoy my content, subscribe. Subscribe, because your boy would appreciate it. And sometimes you might want to hit that notification just to watch my next one, because I think you'll like how I'm doing this. So yeah, all right, and well, I'll be seeing you guys later. Bye-bye.
I don't preach, yeah. I just teach. I am peeping your potential. See the hero.